I now give the floor to Mr. Jean-Pierre Lacroix.
Mr. President and members of the Security Council, I thank you for the opportunity to brief on the situation with respect to UNIFIL. I will commence with that brief on UNIFIL, and after this briefing, I believe General Gauchat will brief on UNDOF. Mr. President, as I briefed you earlier this week, on the 13th of January, the cessation of hostilities between Lebanon and Israel, while fragile, continues to hold. During the ongoing visit to Lebanon of the United Nations Secretary General, I had the opportunity to visit the UNIFIL area of operation earlier today with the Secretary General, of course, and we saw firsthand the situation on the ground. We also met with the Lebanese armed forces and with the caretaker Prime Minister in Beirut. From what I observed and based on what our interlocutors shared, the Lebanese authorities are committed to upholding their commitments under the cessation of hostilities and Resolution 1701. And I reiterate, the United Nations, including of course UNIFIL, is absolutely committed to supporting the parties in this regard. The Lebanese armed forces have deployed to 93 locations south of the Litani River as of 15th of January, compared with an estimated 10 locations on 27 November. UNIFIL has supported the Lebanese army in its deployment to many of these locations. As part of a plan to deploy an additional 6,000 troops south of the Litani, the Lebanese armed forces have recently deployed 262 newly recruited personnel to the South Litani sector, while another 673 recruits are undergoing training, and an additional 600 individuals are undergoing pre-recruitment screening. I acknowledge the efforts of the Military Technical Committee with the participation of several true contributing countries, which is also supporting the Lebanese armed forces in its recruitment and deployment efforts. To facilitate closer coordination with the Lebanese armed forces, UNIFIL has stationed a liaison officer at the LAF South Litani sector headquarters. With additional capabilities in the south and a renewed commitment from the Lebanese armed forces to fulfill their obligation under Resolution 1701, we expect further improvement in the collaboration with UNIFIL moving forward. We are encouraged to hear that a plan for a sequence withdrawal of the IDF and deployment of the Lebanese armed forces was presented at the meeting of the cessation of hostilities mechanism on the 6th of January. With 10 days until the end of the stated 60-day period for the withdrawal of Israeli forces from Lebanon. However, Israeli demolition of tunnels, buildings, and agricultural land continue. Some airstrikes have also been reported, as have ongoing violations of Lebanese airspace. In addition, UNIFIL continues to detect trajectories of projectiles fired from south to north of the blue line, although at a much lower level compared to before 27 November. UNIFIL has only detected 3 trajectories fired from north to south of the blue line since 27 November, and none since the 2nd of December. Noting that the Israel Defense Forces has stated that its actions are targeting Hezbollah assets and personnel, the continued presence of the Israeli Defense Forces in Lebanon is a violation of Resolution 1701. We urge the Israeli Defense Forces to withdraw from Lebanese territory and certainly by the end of the period envisaged in the announcement of the cessation of hostilities. The last year has clearly demonstrated the significant presence of unauthorized armed personnel, assets and weapons related to Hezbollah and other non-state armed groups south of the Litani in blatant violation of Resolution 1701. Encouragingly, the Lebanese armed forces have shown increased resolve in dealing with these in recent weeks. The mission has itself located 116 caches of weapons and ammunition, including rocket-propelled grenade launchers, rockets, anti-tank mines, and rifles. It has also observed some potential tunnel and Hezbollah sites. In all these instances, UNIFIL has informed the Lebanese armed forces for their appropriate action. It is vital that the Lebanese authorities continue to actively fulfill their commitment under the Cessation of Hostilities Agreement and Resolution 1701. The Secretary General will, of course, underscore this message in his meetings with Lebanon's newly elected president, Speaker of Parliament, and designate Prime Minister in Beirut tomorrow. At the same time, UNIFIL is adjusting its posture and operational activities to support the cessation of hostilities in line with its mandate under Resolution 1701. And we certainly hope that with the new political dynamics, new political setup in Lebanon, more space and political support will be forthcoming to UNIFIL as we move forward for the force to fully fulfill its mandate. The mission is working with United Nations headquarters and troop contributing countries to deploy strengthened capacities in the areas of mine clearance, unexploded ordnance disposal, and engineering to clear roads and facilitate a return to full patrolling and monitoring functions across the area of operations. Meanwhile, UNIFIL is stepping up its operational activities in areas where the security situation allows. This includes areas further north of the Blue Line in Sector West. UNIFIL is now conducting an average of 50 operational activities and 28 logistic activities per day, compared with just 16 per day in total before 27 November. And UNIFIL will further strengthen and expand its operations. The mission will also seek to utilize technology to enhance its monitoring capacities along the Blue Line and throughout its area of operation. The acceptance by the parties of the use of technology in this regard will be testament to their continued commitment to uphold the cessation of hostilities and take real steps towards the full implementation of Resolution 1701. Furthermore, UNIFIL is continuously developing and fine-tuning its public messages to address mis- and disinformation and to bolster public understanding of its mandated function as part of an increasingly robust strategic communication strategy. Mr. President, UNIFIL monitors and reports on violations of Resolution 1701, and we will continue to report on such violation to this Council. With respect to the mechanism chaired by the United States with the participation of France, we urge the parties to utilize this forum as a means to resolve outstanding issues through coordination rather than unilateral action. In consultation with the parties, the US and France, UNIFIL is sharing information related to violations of Resolution 1701 with the mechanism with the consent of the parties. Critical to supporting the full implementation of Resolution 1701 is the mission's unrestricted freedom of movement and full access throughout its area of operations. Currently, 7 weeks since the cessation of hostilities came into effect, most contingents often remain confined to base and on occasion must seek shelter in bunkers due in particular to nearby IDF military activity or IDF advisory for UNIFIL to take shelter for their safety and security. A notable example of this occurred on 6th of January when UNIFIL personnel at Nakura headquarters took shelter for around 3 hours early morning while the IDF conducted demolitions nearby. That afternoon, the IDF commenced its withdrawal from locations around Nakura, coinciding with the meeting of the mechanism by UNIFIL, the afternoon of the 6th of January. UNIFIL's operational activities are further constrained through the presence of unexploded ordnance, IDF roadblocks at various locations and in the area of operation, and interference from local individuals. The mission has protested all restrictions of movement to the parties, and we will underscore these messages in our meetings with Lebanese officials this week. Despite these challenges, the mission is increasing the number and intensity of its operation. As the IDF has been replying to few, if not very few, of the mission's requests for deconfliction, the mission has adjusted to a notification system for critical operational and logistics movement. The mission continues to engage with the Israel Defense Forces to remove Level 1, that is stay in base restrictions, so that it can return to Level 1, normal activity, in all locations where the IDF is no longer present. Mr. President, while challenges remain, there is reason for optimism, coupled with strong determination that there will be no return to the past. Confidence in security and stability along the Blue Line is necessary for the communities of southern Lebanon and northern Israel. The ongoing returns of residents to southern Lebanon will continue as Israeli forces withdraw and as reconstruction efforts gather speed. And we note that Israel has also presented a plan for the return of its residents to communities close to the Blue Line in March 2025. The election of a new president in Lebanon, as well as the designation of a prime minister tasked with forming a new government, are very important steps towards the strengthening of state institutions and the extension of state authorities throughout all of Lebanon's territory. In this regard, unequivocal political and material support from the Lebanese authorities for the strengthened deployment of the Lebanese armed forces south of the Litani River will be vital. Their ongoing support to UNIFIL actions will also be crucial. That is the support of the Lebanese authorities, the new Lebanese authorities. At the same time, we encourage renewed support from the international community for these efforts. To those member states contributing troops to UNIFIL and UNSO Observer Group Lebanon, we again extend our most sincere gratitude. Mr. President, members of Security Council, General Gosha, who is serving temporarily as an acting head of mission and force commander of UNDOF until the deployment of Major General Anita Hasma in February, will now be briefing on the situation in the UNDOF area of operation. I would like to commend the efficiency and dedication of UNDOF and Observer Group Golan. The military and civilian personnel are serving in increasingly difficult circumstances. I thank you.